What event divided your life into before and after? Becoming paralyzed. I got into an argument with my best friend while on vacation back in April and went out onto the balcony of my hotel room to call somebody and vent about it. I sat on the railing and ended up falling 3 stories onto the ground below me. Now I'm adjusting to life as a 23-year-old paralyzed chick in a wheelchair. I'm sorry this happened to you. When my then boyfriend of 6 years committed suicide in our living room and I found him. 7 years later I have a new life and married a wonderful man. But that thing won't ever disappear and there's no single day that the horrible image doesn't appear in my mind for at least 1 second. Some days longer and regrets and questions run through my mind. Since then I have to deal with anxiety, which I have almost 100% controlled, but I will never be the same as before. One of the singular reasons I can't really push myself to suicide. Someone is going to find my body and it is going to hurt them. There isn't a single position I can think of that wouldn't be ultra scaring unless it was a slower one in a hospital bed. My first seizure and epilepsy diagnosis. I was kicked out of the Air Force. Temporarily had to leave my aerospace engineering studies. Caused me to meet the love of my life. Changed my perspective of the world. And a whole bunch of other things. My mom's renal failure, which meant dialysis every 3 days, and caused her to move with my grandma because my 2 siblings and I were in the school and couldn't properly care for her. We had to suddenly organize everything ourselves, and while my dad gave us money for the expenses it still was quite a change. I was 15. When I broke my back, I'm able to walk, thank God, but I'm in severe pain most of the time and it greatly hinders my ability to be happy. I've had spine issues for 20 years that I won't go into, and I currently have nerve compression in my cervical spine that can't really be fixed. It's tough to explain to people who haven't experienced chronic spinal pain how it pushes everything else out of your mind. You can't sit or walk or lie down to make it better and you can't get away from it. Chronic pain is exhausting. Getting so sick in my 20s that I literally thought I was going to die several times. Over 60 days in the hospital in 1 year. I 100% changed from who I was before. Old friends are just that, old friends, because I'm not me anymore. Best friend suicide. I have a huge gap in my memory from when it happened, about 3-4 days, but nothing is the same afterwards. I visit the cemetery every month and still message him, but knowing that I'll never get a reply. Almost everything is B was still there when it happened, B wasn't there. My best friend also committed suicide. His death was the worst time of my life. I still visit him every so often. He's still my best friend. The day last September when I found out my extremely loving, moral, kind, thoughtful, husband and best friend of 30+ years had been an extremely active member of Ashley Madison for over 6 years and was living a second life I never knew about. It changed every aspect of me and every aspect of my life. I don't look anything the same. It changed my personality. My boyfriend dying while we were together. Some background. I met him on Tinder. I know, on a whim. I met up with him. And he was 45 minutes late to dinner. When he did show up, he was dressed in a nice suit and brought me a rose. He explained that he was a truck driver, and he wanted to shower and be cleaned and groomed when he was to meet me. When I dropped him off that night, he was staying at one of those truck stop lot things where there's a shower and food, but you sleep in the cab of your truck. We quickly fell for one another. He was very respectful of me, and didn't touch me until I touched him, and even then, he was respectful. We talked constantly on the phone, and I was able to see him almost every weekend when he passes through town. He loved being a truck driver, because he loved to travel. He took the most beautiful pictures, and they're still on Instagram. Valentine's week, he said he wanted to meet my family. I told my family, and they were so excited. We were planning Sunday dinner. He was driving from California that night, so he could arrive on Valentine's Day. The last text I ever sent him was the time the Natural History Museum closed. We were going to go because we were nerds. I woke up Valentine's morning to a Facebook message from someone I didn't know. It said, "Call me when you get this. XXXXXXXXXX." Upon quick investigation, I saw that it was from his mom. I got really nervous, because they lived in Florida, and I'd never met them. What could she have to say? Was she going to tell me to stay away from her son? Maybe tell me he's a psychopath? I had no idea. I finally plucked up the courage to call her, and that's when she told me over the phone that he died in a rollover in the middle of the night in Nevada. I was completely devastated. And worse, I blamed myself completely. Who knew downloading a stupid app would lead to his demise? I remember sobbing together with his mom on the phone, and between my gasps I asked if she was upset with me. She reassured me that she wasn't, and we ended a call a short time later. This has affected every one of my relationships since then. I treated my next boyfriend like he could die any day, and I made him promise, multiple times, not to drive distracted, and text me when he got wherever he was going. This was a tad ridiculous, and we didn't last long. I still have a deep fear of letting someone drive to get me. I volunteer whenever I can do drive or go to them, and it all attributes back to that earth-stopping moment. You are not responsible for his death. You are responsible for all the happiness you gave him before that accident. Every life is as delicate as a flower, and your love helped him blossom. May you remember this power of love, and help others blossom as well. Hurricane Sandy. It completely destroyed my home, but I was living in a bad situation after I was able to separate from my toxic family issues. Since then I've gotten my own place, met my future wife, and had a beautiful son. Katrina here. Pre and post Katrina are common measures of time around these parts. Major car accident. Lost half my jaw and now have severe memory problems. Life every day is now heck. I deal with nerve pain that my doctors cannot figure out the source, and the nightmares, remembering laying on the road waiting to die. Thanks to anyone who listened. When I told my family about the sexual abuse I endured for 10 years, nothing has felt the same since then. I am a completely different person, in a good way, finally. Sobriety began 9 months and 22 days ago. I met my current girlfriend 9 months and 15 days ago. Falling asleep without the aid of alcohol is nice. The cessation of cravings is nicer. Sounds like it was a good week for you. Congrats. A few years ago I received a FB message from a relative I hadn't spoken to since my childhood. I was 29 at the time, I'm 33 now. She said she had a secret that I needed to hear and that I should contact her ASAP. Without going into too much backstory, this family member is known for starting into family drama. So rather than playing into her BS, I went straight to my mother to see what this person could be talking about. My mother hemmed and hawed for a few moments, then dropped a bomb on me. The man who had raised me all my life was not my real father. Turns out my mom and him were broken up for a bit before I was born, and during that time my mom met, married, got pregnant by then left my biological father. She divorced him when I was about 3. My bio dad knew about me, but since he couldn't be with my mom, she had reunited with the man who raised me. He wanted no part of raising me. This all came out because my bio dad was in town trying to locate me so we could meet. Also so I could meet my younger sister and brother. I went to the meeting so I could meet my siblings and still have relationships with them to this day, but my relationship with all parents involved remains strained. I barely speak to my bio dad and only speak to my parents. It is hard to think of the man who raised me as anything but my dad, a few times a month. The only positive things that came out of this was my relationship with my younger siblings. I never had a sister growing up, but always wanted one, and it gave me a whole new level of love for my own children. For those two things I am eternally grateful, though it is still hard at times to not be angry at anyone who had a hand in keeping the secret. Thanks for listening. I've told this story a handful of times, but it never feels anything other than texting. 1. The moment I made the decision to stay sober, 2003. 2. The moment my wife and I were told my daughter had died in the womb, 2008. 3. When my wife, the love of my life, told me she didn't love me anymore, 2 months ago. Been there. Stay strong and don't let 2 and 3 ruin 1. With college came the development of depression and anxiety as well as a major breakup, so I tend to think of my life as before and after college. Also the before I knew my husband versus after is huge. Star Trek. I know it's nerdy, but it's what got me to stop just being complacent and to actually go and try to live and meet my potential. also was a huge factor in making me realize how unhealthy my current relationship was. Running away from my physically and mentally abusive mother. After years of torment and being told on a daily basis I should just kill myself while she threw the scissors at me, I finally decided this isn't how I want my life to be. While I was pulling into the garage, my mom started hitting me for not pulling in with 2 hands on the wheel. So I stopped the car and ran, and I haven't looked back since. I'm still learning to move on, which can be really difficult, but life is finally looking up and I didn't know that I could ever be as happy as I am today. Hey man. Breaking family ties is hard when society preaches we should love our parents unconditionally and that they can do no wrong. But your mother failed you in the worst way as a parent who's supposed to keep you safe. You did a brave thing walking away. Don't ever let anyone give you crap for protecting yourself. My parents' divorce and my dad's diagnosis with Durkheim's disease. I was blissfully unaware of how life can be when things don't go your way. I spent a few years being depressed and complacent, but now I'm learning to code, glass blowing, and being more socially active, even getting some attention from the ladies. Horrible event, but my life since then has been nothing like it was before. My divorce. The woman that I married and the woman I broke up with are very different people. I still miss the first girl, but I know full well she doesn't exist anymore. As much as it doesn't make sense, I still grieve the loss of that person and am filled with a great bitter resentment that the person that replaced her gets to go on and be satisfied with her life. Motorcycle accident that left me partially paralyzed with extensive nerve damage. There is a span of about 4 hours that changed everything. My mother was, and still is, a hoarder. My family lives in an apartment building that we own, spread out into 2 apartments. She had filled up one apartment with newspapers and moved down into my apartment and filled it with junk. I never got any privacy or place of my own. I slept in a 6-foot by 3-foot space surrounded by books and newspapers. I had problems with roaches and had no place to eat or cook or store my belongings. The newspapers were about 5 feet high with narrow paths across the living room, no place to sit, and one of the 2 bedrooms was completely closed off with junk. This was my living situation until my father hired 3 men to clear out both apartments in 2013. I moved into my father's apartment, but my mother continues to hoard in her place. Now I have a clean bedroom for myself. My wife leaving me, getting a new job at about the same time. After 7 years of marriage, she left me for a guy she met playing Pokemon cards at the coffee shop she worked at. We had been very poor. I was paying my way through college doing freelance software development work and working a crappy retail job at Best Buy, and she was a barista. About a month later I interviewed for my dream job in DC and was given a job offer. I went from making $10K a year after tuition fees were spoken for, to making enough to buy a $60K car and pay for a $1,600 M apartment. I moved from central WV to DC, actually Northern Virginia, and my entire life has changed. I was in a crappy, falling apart, leaky, moldy trailer, and now I have high ceilings, granite countertops, and a hot tub about 50 feet from my door. My dog used to cook in the summer and freeze in the winter. In the summer the place would be 90-100 degrees and I'd try to keep her cool with ice packs and a kiddie pool by the front porch. And in the winter her water bowl would freeze over sometimes. Now she lives a life of comfort and luxury. I didn't bring anything with me to DC except my dog, some of my clothes. They had a moldy smell to them that I couldn't get out, a few books, my car, and my PC. It was as close to starting completely over as you can do. Oh, when my wife found out I got that job and how much I was going to get paid, she tried to come back. I politely declined. I'm very lucky that she did what she did when she did. If she'd had waited just a few weeks, things would have been very different. Quitting the band that could have potentially made it big, because my wife was leaving me. I was on the road all the time having a blast. She was home alone in a strange city, bored and jealous. She finally had enough and said that she was moving home with or without me. I quit and went with her. It pretty much ended my dream of making it in music. She ended up being a total C. Once I stopped being a rock star type, cut my hair, and started getting serious about my life, she lost interest in me and started cheating. So I dumped her, but This will probably get buried, but when I had my first psychotic break, life is divided into before schizoaffective disorder and after schizoaffective disorder, two very different segments of life. When my brother killed himself, I was pretty young at the time and realized that I didn't have the energy to worry about kid crap anymore. I want this new toy, does he have a crush on me, etc. I was destroyed emotionally and still am. It's too early to tell, but a close second would be a few months after I was diagnosed with lupus. I was having a hard time as my back was in pretty severe pain, but I needed to do laundry which my back was preventing. I just sat down and started crying, realizing this would probably be the rest of my life, and that I would never be pain-free again, and that the most menial tasks would take a miracle for me to complete. But that was only a few months ago, so I'm not sure if it'll affect me similarly. When my best friend was arrested for raping one of his 12 years old students at knife point a week before his wedding, I legitimately thought it was some kind of mistake because he never drank, smoked or anything like that. He was the first person to help out anyone when they needed it. He was also suspected of a murder of an 8-year-old, but they couldn't prove it. I packed my bags from Sydney and got a one-way ticket to San Francisco to pursue the startup dream. 3.5 years later, I have the best co-founder in the world, and the best team, 12 employees, and great investors, and amazing partnerships. Literally, I went to live my dream and am currently fortunate enough to say I'm in the middle of it now. Before this, I was working a great job, but had zero fulfillment in my life. Now I have nearly no money, earn $2,500 per month, with rent being not far from that number, but have so much self-satisfaction for what my team has helped us as a company accomplish so far. Not sure if this answer is along the lines of what you're looking for. If it isn't, then my bad. Before being a frontman in my band, and after, I had to get over so many of my own insecurities before getting used to stepping up and singing on stage. A massive personality shift for the better. When I got sober, before I was a drunken mess, an embarrassment to everyone I knew, someone that if you brought anywhere you had to at minimum prepare for the worst. Now I'm sober, will be 4 years the 18th of August. I've definitely relapsed at times and it sucks, but it's never been prolonged and completely brought me down, and I'm getting on a self-therapy regimen of sorts to get my way through it in the moments I'm having and the ones I'll have. Things aren't always the best, but I think I'll live past 30 now barring some unfortunate accident, so that's good. The day I planned to kill my father, my mom got to the house first and thwarted the whole thing, but it started a chain of events that caused me to grow up very quickly. Those 18 months I spent guarding a big forum and supporting anyone I could find who was suicidal. According to my math, I could have watched 6 seasons of Game of Thrones 50 times and had time to spare. That kinda opened my eyes to how much time I spent there. Most of the time consisted of searching through the different categories and hoping that nothing would happen after I signed off. The administration had this really crazy "we are going to have a category for mental health and censor anyone who is suicidal" policy. Then I wish 7 hells on. For a moment there I thought you meant you became a mod on Reddit. 27th of January of this year, had my first panic attack whilst with my psychologist. He wasn't supportive at all and I left scared and confused. The following month I started having panic attacks every 2 or 3 days before school and didn't have the strength to get in, made up dozens of excuses for me being late to not admit my head was getting messed up. After March I started having them every day, which led to a suicide attempt in early April. I stopped going to school at all in mid-April and went back about 10 times from there to the end on the 12th of June. During this period I became more depressed and my self-harm got worse. Didn't go to that psychologist ever again. Started seeing a psychiatrist. Started having to take meds and none of them worked for more than a couple days. Went from one of the best students in my class to struggling to maintain average grades. Oh, and during February-March my mum got hospitalized for cancer, which she fortunately beat. TLDR. Everything that could have gone to crap went to crap. And then it was downhill. It's been getting slightly better in the last month but I'm still in a bad place. Ugh, psychologists who cannot properly empathize are the worst. But don't let that convince you they are all like that. Once you find a good one, it will make the healing process infinitely better. Same story happened to me in college. It's the hardest trial I ever had to go through, but I got through it, and so can you. Stay strong, my friend. A hit and run Easter 2012. Before that day I was active and happy. I was a newlywed. My husband and I loved to camp, go to the beach, hike, etc. I was alive and truly living. That morning I was headed to work. It was about 10 AM with clear sunny skies. I was waiting at a stop sign 2 blocks from my house. A truck on the main road started to swerve, sped up and rammed right into my driver's side door. I stayed conscious, but things were hazy. He looked right at me through my windshield and backed up and sped off. I woke up that day a normal 25-year-old. I went to bed with a shoulder and spine injury. I take 12 different meds a day. I haven't been camping or hiking or anything in 4 years. No activity equals weight gain. Weight gain equals self-consciousness. Every day I live with unbearable pain. I've since been diagnosed with major depression and don't even feel like a person anymore. I feel anger and guilt. My husband didn't sign up for this. He vowed for better or worse, but didn't know worse would be less than a year later. The woman he married is almost completely gone. My husband has always been supportive. He is what keeps me going. He is what keeps me alive, but I don't think anything will ever make me feel like I'm living. I've had a weird crap life, so it starts early. I've had 3 biggish events in my life. First, when I was 10, my mom was in a car accident and pasted away. She was actually pregnant when it happened, so I lost whatever siblings I might have had instead of being an only child. At the time we were living in a small town in the middle of nowhere, but I had friends and some family nearby, so it was good. After she died, my dad came and I moved back to Houston, where I was originally from. I went from having friends to living in a rough neighborhood and not having anyone to play with. The school I went to was 90 black, and I'm Hispanic, so I got picked on a lot. Got in a lot of fights. In fact, all the Hispanic kids transferred out of that class except for me. They didn't want to be my friend either because I didn't speak Spanish. I think the worst was around Christmas, where the teacher made us color Santa and all the other Santas were black, and they teased me saying Santa was black, so I made mine blue because Santa was cold. When I went to middle school, things really didn't change, so I was alone a lot. High school was kinda better, but not really. Second, when I was 21, my dad died. We moved in with my grandma a few years before because my grandpa died, so I was living with her at the time. My aunt and uncle moved in with us to take care of her, but they kinda hated me. They used to separate food and not let me eat or drink their stuff. They used to cook great food for when their kids stopped by, but never treated me like family, I guess. I guess 3 would be when my grandma died. I really didn't have anywhere to go after that. Couldn't stay in that house, so I was homeless for a few months. My truck is paid off so I could sleep in it, but my job wasn't great, so I spent most of my money on food. Eventually I saved enough to get me a small apartment, but I'm still pretty poor. I literally have only 1 pair of pants. There's stuff I left out, but these are the most important things, I guess. I always wonder what would have happened if things were different. Just hugs, man. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.